It's March 13th, 2023. This is Roqe. Hi there, welcome to episode 246 of Roqe. I'm jianghomeshi. Hello to you from Toronto, Canada. Salam dostan aziz, durud bar shoma. It does sound weird, my voice, doesn't it? You know, I was on a plane this weekend, yesterday, and, sorry, turn Pegah on there. Where are you? Are you there?
I think so. No.
Oh, no, you're not there yet. Oh.
There we go.
All right. I was flying, I think when I was flying to, I went to DC. I was flying to there. I was sitting next to somebody, or somebody was sitting next to me who was doing the cough. I think I should just like go in a hazmat suit when I go on planes.
Were you wearing a mask?
No.
Okay.
Well,
I mean, it's still recommended on airplanes.
would you wear a mask on an airplane?
On the plane, yeah.
Oh, really?
I do.
Oh. Well, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I haven't been wearing a mask.
You're basically in like a tin can.
Yeah, you are.
Right?
Yeah.
So like,
especially with the person,
everything.
I mean, the molecules were, there was coughing and I could feel it coming. And so I think and then I was in DC. I wasn't going to go into all this right away, but I thought, you know, we're snowy Toronto. We had a little bit of storm, and actually isn't that cold in Toronto, but you know, we had some snow. And I was looking at the temperatures in DC for the weekend, and it was saying 8 degrees, 7 degrees Celsius. Right. So I didn't take a coat. I didn't take a winter coat. And so I go there, and it's actually windy and blustery and 3 degrees. And I was lucht. Again, as my mother, like I just posted a picture of me and Erfan, you know, rapper Erfan, my wordsmith brother, at in front of the White House there, and
he's in like a
he's from LA, so he's embarrassingly overdressed. Right. He's got like this full parka and like it's like, dude, it's calm down. Yeah, like you're not at the North Pole, you know. But
in contrast, you're in a leather jacket.
I know. I just know my mother is going to be like, "Madam Rafti loch khobebin." You know, you were out there naked. Exactly. But I'm pretty sure it was the woman coughing on me next to me. The molecules. I don't know if they're molecules, whatever they are, that got into my. Anyway, I'll tell you about the DC in a second. I want to say Nikki Nojumi. One of the great Iranian artists. So he's an Iranian-American, legendary Iranian-American artist. We've had him on the show, not for a long time, actually. It was 2 or 3 years ago. Based in New York, and famous for, in fact, award-winning for, internationally recognized for what? Protest art, right? Political, satirical, political art. That of which we see so much of now over the last 6 months. But he's been doing this for years, and he's continuing to do it now. So it's almost like the Iranian world has caught up to Nicky Nodjoumi, you know? I mean, he was doing this before the last revolution, and then after the Islamic Republic came to power, he was put in jail, and, you know, one of these stories, and ends up coming to New York, and he's been very consistently, you know, creating art about the mullahs and being opposed to this regime. And so and right now he's very active, but for Nicky Nojumi, there's been no change. I mean, it wasn't like Mahsa, I mean, he got killed and he suddenly got politicized, you know. So he's coming up. We'll get to him in New York, but before that, we go to Los Angeles for Kosar Abbasi. She is a dancer, a choreographer, a performer, an activist, an actor, and an entrepreneur. She's got a few different businesses. So she grew up in Iran. She has this wild story where she was always in love with dance, but ends up going to India to study medicine, of course.
Right.
And then realizes that her dancing talents can flourish, and becomes kind of a dancing star in India, then goes to Malaysia, then ends up in Los Angeles a few years ago, and has basically been in LA for the last 5 years. What a journey. And she has been so active in this movement, you know, of late. posting videos, creating artistic works, very defiantly talking about not just being an Iranian woman, but an Iranian female dancer, which of course you cannot be inside Iran, and fighting for the right for people to dance. In fact, we've entitled today's episode "We Should Be Allowed to Dance." It's based on something that this is kind of her mantra.
Right.
So she's coming up in Los Angeles in just a little bit. Really looking forward to having Kosar on the show for the first time.
Yeah, excited to hear about it. I mean, just even from what you've said, that's incredible.
Yeah, I'm going to ask her about her story.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure, we'll talk about... I know in our roundup we're going to get to the news today about that involves actually female dancers in Iran. So, but I also want to talk to her about her story. So I was in DC for this Nufti fundraiser. Remember Nufti?
Yes.
Kamran Khansariniya. Is that what I'm saying?
Khansariniya. I think so.
Yeah, we had him on the show.
Yes.
He's Nufti's a non-profit, nonpartisan organization. They represent the Iranian-American community, and they're sort of pursuing. They're active about U.S. policy towards Iran and human rights and democracy, and so they had an event, and so I went down for that, and there was a lot of different people there. Some of the well-known opposition leaders and others were there. But I was going to say, and of course, Erfan was there, so that's why I saw him, and we went. Like tourists, and so I took a picture in front of the White House. But Shali Zomarodi was there.
Oh, okay.
And she's been on the show like 2 or 3 times on our show, but I've never met her in person.
Really? Oh, well, yeah. I mean, because that was always Zoom.
It was always Zoom.
Right.
Yeah. She's in San Diego, and it was so nice to meet her in person. And you know how people always think, oh, I don't know if she's going to like me saying this. You know how people always think that I'm shorter than I am? Like they meet me in person and go, oh, you're kind of tall. I thought you were,
Right.
I thought she was really tall.
And she's not.
She's not.
Oh, okay.
No. I don't know. That's not that interesting.
I guess video and whatnot
doesn't. But you know what she is very genuine. You kind of... You never totally know someone's energy until you're with them in person. And she's, of course, so lovely in her videos and on her shows and everything. But you kind of go, well, maybe she's a performer. That's her. But in person, and of course, there were so many people who wanted to come and take pictures with her or talk to her. And she's just seemed like a really genuine soul, And her husband was there, who is the trooper who kind of like assists. They have like a gazillion children, the whole story. Right? Well, they've got like an army of children.
They have like 3 or something.
They have like a schoolyard. I think they're 4.
3 or 4?
4.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's 4. Anyway, lovely to see Shali Zomarodi. Shout out to you, Shali. Nice to see you in person and be taller than you, even with your glamorous heels. So there is, as we say, we've got Kosar Abbasi and Nicky Nodjoumi coming up. But before that, it's one of those things where in between shows sometimes there's not that much happening. And then there's times when there feels like there's a lot happening. So just before we were about to start here, I was saying to you, what do you think about the roundup? And there was the list is too long. We have to cut some things because there's so much going on.
I feel like it, like you said, sometimes between shows there's some quiet periods, and then other times it's like a lot has happened. But surprisingly, I think this week, or since the last show rather, I feel like it was a lot more than even usual. I was seeing a lot more videos. I was seeing a lot more
and if the narrative is that the revolution is slowing somehow, the news cycle isn't, or at least not this week. In terms of there's so much going on. Some of it not positive necessarily. Let's start with because we already referenced them, the dancers, because this is something we also talked about on our last show.
Yes.
So because it was last week when this video went viral of these wonderful young female dancers in what's it called?
Ekbatan.
In the Ekbatan neighborhood in Tehran. Well, tell the story, because the breaking news is unfortunate now that they've just been arrested, right?
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, we talked about it on the last show that we saw this video be released on International Women's Day. It depicted, these 5 women dancing in front of an apartment complex by the name of Ekbatan, and obviously, based on experience, we were all worried about what was going to come.
They weren't wearing masks.
No
and
masks.
In fact, they were like bellies exposed, like full on, Western looking, bravely doing these dances and seemingly with a lot of joy and enthusiasm.
Exactly. And so I remember actually the last show we said, we hope that nothing comes of this, but of course that fear is obviously always there when we see videos like this come out from Iran. So initially what happened is that they actually received a warning from what I presume to be like intelligence services or something like that. And so they weren't actually rounded up, they weren't detained, nothing like that. They just received a warning. Their dance instructor also received a warning because apparently these girls all are part of some sort of like a class or something along those lines. So everyone received warnings, and then that was it. And then immediately after the warning, or sometime after, I guess, they were brought in for just questioning, or they were told they were just being brought for questioning. That questioning ended up turning into 2 days of detainment. So they were actually detained.
Where did you get all this? I thought that. This must have just come out all this.
Yeah,
news, right?
I think like 4 or 5 hours ago, all of this came out, so maybe even less. There's updates now that they were detained. They've now since been released.
All of them.
Yes,
all
of them. Yeah. But prior to their release, they were forced to provide a confession, quote unquote, which I assume is under duress. So, obviously false confession. Yeah. And so that's the latest with them. But one thing I did want to mention about this whole situation, aside from the fact that, of course we were all worried about what would come of them and what would happen. And obviously the confession is just pure bullshit. But something that I saw that really warmed my heart was that in the period of time that they were given this kind of cautionary warning or whatever, to the time that they were detained, to just a couple of hours ago, thousands of people have uploaded videos of themselves dancing in the streets.
Yes.
In solidarity with these girls.
That's
and to
awesome.
show their support.
Yeah.
And so, I know we talk about this a lot, about this newfound unity amongst Iranians and this sense of solidarity and all of that. But it was wonderful to see, because in such a short period of time, they all just kind of came together, uploaded these videos, and aside from the fact that some of them are incredible, it was just beautiful to see.
I will inevitably ask Kosar about this, because I'm sure she's got a very personal connection to this as a dancer from Iran and somebody who's been really outspoken about that. So, I mean, as you say, it was inevitable that that they get arrested, but that's a nice coda to it, that there's this solidarity happening. What else do we have in the roundup?
Well, before we move into kind of occurrences in the diaspora, there is a new call to action inside Iran that's stemming from what would typically be Chaharshanbe Suri celebrations, I guess. So there's this viral kind of campaign or poster or something that's being shared on social media, and it's asking for individuals to come out on 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of Isfand, which is the 14th, 15th, and 16th of March.
Next few days, right?
Tomorrow and then the next couple of days. And so the idea is to kind of encourage everyone to use Chaharshanbe Suri as, I guess, a symbol more than anything else, to come out of this darkness and move into, again, more solidarity, more unity, more protests. So that'll be interesting to see the turnout over the next couple of days. And I think what's even more interesting is that Chaharshanbe Suri historically has always been a time that, people come out onto the streets, they're celebrating.
We should explain what it is. I mean, it's, I know most of our audience is Iranian, but there are people who listen who either are not Iranian or are not schooled in our institutions and events. So go ahead.
Let's hope I get this right. It's the last Tuesday night of the year prior to celebrating Nowruz, which is the Iranian New Year. And the concept is, you jump over fire, and there's a saying that you give all of your negative energy and negative thoughts and just negativity to the fire and absorb all of the positivity from it. And what I was saying is that historically this is a night where, a lot of people, especially in Iran, come out and celebrate. And in fact, even the regime tends to be a little bit more lax on a night like this. So in light of this new call to action and the recent occurrences in Iran, it'll be very interesting to see what transpires.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll be watching for the call to action inside Iran the next few days. And by all means, if you're in Iran and you want to subversively or otherwise get in contact with us and tell us what's going on, we're always looking for candidates for our Voices from Inside Iran series. What else do you have?
So everything else I have is outside of Iran, but again, I still feel like there was so much that happened. The first thing is the announcement of Iran-Saudi ties being reestablished. So I thought that was major news. And just to provide some background, Iran and Saudi Arabia have cut ties since back in 2016. So it's been roughly about 7 years that officially they're no longer friends, quote unquote. And this came after the demonstrations and the storming of the Saudi embassy in Tehran, following the execution of a Muslim cleric in Saudi Arabia. So
can I just intervene here?
Yeah.
You say everything so matter-of-factly, which I like about you. You're down to business.
I mean, these are facts.
Yeah, you're unemotional, robotic.
Robotic?
Yeah.
Well, I'll get to my opinion on this, actually.
You don't have to get your opinion, but you say that you said it as if, I mean, it's humdrum. It's actually, you could exclaim it a little bit more, I think. Like Iran and the Saudis are back in bed together. I mean, it's
huge.
It's pretty shitty, actually.
It is, yeah. I agree.
And jarring. It was jarring news. Like, it was like one of those things that, I mean, now that I've spoken to a few policy analysts and stuff over the weekend, I felt like, oh, okay, they were like, well, you could see this coming, and, these are the kind of things that the Saudis do, whatever. But when I saw the news on Friday, I was like, what? It was a double take. It was really, I mean, I thought that there was enmity between Saudi Arabia and Iran. I thought that was the whole point, that Iran International and all this, which we'll get to, I'm sure. But go ahead.
Well, and that's the thing, and I was going to touch upon that, but we'll talk about it now, is that after the news, there's even been some chaos erupting inside Iran, amongst political circles inside Iran, within the regime, actually, because exactly what you said, Iran and Saudi Arabia have been kind of enemies and fighting for this power in the region and all of this. And the Islamic Republic has actually been very vocal about this, calling them, a cancer in the region and all of that. So now what's happened is, after the news of them kind of getting into bed together, as you said.
How dare you dance with the devil?
Exactly.
That's what's happening, right?
That's right. And there's this, everyone's calling each other out. So a lot of the quote unquote reformists in the Islamic Republic are saying, the hardliners, how could you say that they were kind of the cancer in the region, and now what's happened that you're coming to the table with them? And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that, there's always been this conversation within the Islamic Republic about regional disputes being solved by regional states. So no intervention from the big bad wolf, the United States, right? But there's been absolutely no comment on China, who's brokered this deal, and the role that they play. And so, going towards my opinion on all of this, I think it's just, this is more in favor.
Is your inflection going to change?
Yes. This is all, what's good for China. I don't think this is going to be in the benefit of Iran in any way, shape, or form. And I think it's just this new power shift in power.
You don't think it's in the benefit of Iran?
Not really. I mean, I don't.
Isn't Iran? I mean, it's kind of starved for allies. Why not have Saudi Arabia?
Here's the thing.
Add to the list of notorious countries that are supporting Iran.
Yeah, they're definitely starved for allies, but Saudi Arabia, I mean, we've seen all Saudi Arabia cares about is Saudi Arabia, and I'm sure the only reason that China's brokering this deal is because there's something in it for them. So it's just, I think ultimately.
How cynical.
I mean, the last 6 months, right?
Yeah. So. But and I think from the conversations I was having on the weekend, I don't know about this stuff too intimately, but it sounds like also the Saudis not happy with the U.S.
Yes.
Because, of course, under the Trump administration, there was, they were they were bros, remember they met around the globe with that glowing orb or whatever it was.
That image, yeah.
And now, I mean, whatever the real deal is, that certainly the lip service has been, Biden sort of castigating them a little bit about Khashoggi and then Jake Sullivan going there and saying some negative things.
Right.
And so the Saudis have got a chip on their shoulder now about the U.S. and are willing to look for other bedfellows and as you say, are usually operate based on self-interest. There's no huge ideological sort of grand master plan in terms of who they ally with, is what I was told this weekend by different people. But it's one of the things that is alarming, and I hate to state the obvious. Maybe this is again too obvious, but you don't. negotiate a new friendlier relationship with a regime you expect to be toppled any day, you know?
Yeah.
And so this says to me, like, if I zoom out, I go, the Saudis don't think that the regime's going anywhere. Why would you make a deal? Why would you, like, what's the incentive? If they're gone next week, you start to look for who's the next guy, and then I'll see what my relationship is with them, right? So this is all, as with, the U.S., the chatter we're hearing about that. Maybe you'll get to it. Well, you will, and the EU and all of that. This is all, I would put this in the folder of hedging their bets that the regime is staying for now.
It's the devil they know. And I guess the devil they want to keep.
The murderous devil they know.
That's right. Yeah. I was actually going to get to it, but I'll talk about it first. I wanted to chat about the potential prisoner swap story that we've been hearing. So for anyone who hasn't seen the news reports, there was some allegations made by the Iranian foreign minister, Hossein Amir Abdullahian. He told state media on Sunday that a deal had been reached between Iran and the United States for a prisoner swap. And he went so far as to say that Iran is ready by any and all means, and that the U.S. is in their final stages of technical coordination. Now, this typically wouldn't be enough to just talk about, but I wanted to talk about it because while all of this was going on, the deal with Saudi Arabia and China and all of that, typically Hossein Amir Abdullahian would have been the person there to talk about negotiating and talking to the Saudis and whatnot. He wasn't, because he in fact was in the process of speaking to the United States. So I think, when I just first read this.
How do you know that?
News reports.
Okay.
Yeah, research.
You weren't on the Zoom call.
No.
Yeah, all right.
No, I wasn't. No insider info.
Where's Hossein? Yeah. All right.
But the reason that I wanted to bring this up is because, a lot of people are saying, well, is this whole prisoner swap story real? Is it, and I have my hesitations and reservations and whatever else, but I think this is a really important keynote. So we'll see what comes of it. But the U.S. is definitely insisting that it's false, and they're saying that, although Washington is committed to securing the release of Americans that are being held in Iran, this story is in fact
but
false.
Did you see the quote today? Or the quote that just came out was this story is false, but we are chatting with Iran about potential. I mean, so which part of it is false? If it's, I think they just wanted to say, to sort of be contrarian about the IRI foreign minister. Let me ask you a question put your political science graduate hat on, fellow poli-sci grad hat on. And do you believe that if there are, let's say these negotiations are happening for a prisoner swap, do you believe that also implies some sort of rapprochement that is part of conversations about a nuclear deal?
Absolutely. I don't think that it would be one or the other, for sure. Because I think if you're going to sit at the table with them about the prisoner swaps, of course you're going to sit at the table with them about the nuclear talks and things like that. And if anything, and any human rights lawyer or advocate or anything like that, please don't come for me when I say this, but I think the U.S. is going to be more inclined to talk about a deal that will ultimately result in financial gains for them, as opposed to just humanitarian work and bringing back their prisoners. So
which human rights lawyer is going to come after you for that?
I don't know. I just thought, if I say something about prisoners and whatnot, I'm always ready to take some heat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't exactly know, but you're right.
But yes.
I mean, it's I think I agree. Unfortunately, all of the whispering that I mean, you can, it's telegraphed in so many ways. The Robert Malley thing has been done to death in terms of, and I've done it, I mean, so, but why would you make statements that are so nuanced that they can be interpreted as we're actually back channeling with the Islamic Republic mullahs to make a deal, if you really weren't, you would be, your language would be so defined, so firmly in on one side. So it's and this is a constant dribber drab, and you add this to the information that we're getting from somebody like Dr. Mahdi Qudsi last week, saying, the Biden administration is not doing anything to stop the conversations that are happening with China, the conversations, the sale of oil to China, et cetera, where they could.
That's right.
It's it's a disappointment. Those who were who were claiming that the Biden administration will be disappointing in terms of where they'll ultimately sit with this uprising are turning out to be right so far. Yeah. Anything else?
The Massa Charter.
Oh,
that's something I definitely
something else.
wanted to
Yes,
talk
yeah,
about.
yeah.
So,
the Mansour.
Yes, exactly. So the Massa Charter is courtesy of the Alliance for Democracy and Freedom in Iran, right. ADF Iran.
Am I supposed to put my fist in the air?
Yes. So before I go into that, can I voice my personal opinion about something? I really don't like this logo. I really don't. I mean, I think there could have been a much better choice.
Yeah. I hate to be cheeky about it. That's what I was alluding to. But I've seen so many people who don't think this should have been the logo. Yeah. For a multitude of reasons. It doesn't seem to be winning a lot of hearts. This is a sort of a black fist on a white background.
That's right.
And I guess it references we're having a revolution.
I mean, I understand the concept or the idea behind it, maybe. I mean, fists have always been representative of uprisings and revolts and fights and things like that. But at first glance, the first thing I thought of was the BLM movement, so the Black
Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter movement. Yeah, exactly.
Because the logo is
because the logo is exactly the same. It's just inverted in color. So I think it's white on black as opposed to black on white. It's literally the same logo. That's the first thing. The other thing is, I think, a fist of, showing that fight, and then what's written in the charter about, this non-violent overthrow of the Islamic Republic and some of the ideologies of it. I thought they could have chosen a better logo. But that's just my personal rant on the logo. So going back to the charter, for anyone who hasn't heard of this news or seen what's come out regarding the Massa Charter, it was released on March 10th. It's a charter written by an alliance of individuals, organizations, and political parties. Some very notable initial signatories, which include Masih Nejad, Nazanin Bonyadi, Shirin Ebadi, Hamid Ismailion, Abdullah Muqtadi, and Reza Pahlavi. And it's basically a framework for cooperation, and their main aim is to pursue the nonviolent overthrow of the Islamic Republic and establishing of a secular democracy in Iran. And I think a lot of people were anticipating this charter because there had been talks from the coalition and them saying that they've been working on this for some time. Definitely a step in the right direction, for sure.
Is it?
I would hope. I think a lot of people feel that way. And a lot of great points about, what a foundation of a eventual secular democracy could look like. But I'm sure there's more work to be done on it, for sure.
Well, there are a lot of people who are very unhappy with it, of which I'm. I don't know. I have to, I guess, spend more time with it.
Right.
I read it Saturday morning. I kind of went through it, and it was I didn't have a good initial reaction. I was kind of like, really? What? First of all, it felt shockingly thin, and then on the other hand, it felt like shockingly prescriptive. It's like, there's sort of language of this is a blueprint, a plan, maybe a suggestion, whatever. But is it? I mean, it feels like it's like, well, here's the plan for the next foreseeable future for Iran, and it's kind of, did the Iranian people vote on this? How did this happen? So. Obviously, there are some well-intentioned people behind it, I guess, but I see a lot of the criticism of it and go, oh, geez, good points, and I don't know what what's a frustrating moment that we're in is that we have to be able to disagree and communicate on things and maintain solidarity. And so I see some of the disagreement being shut down, even by some prominent people saying, this is the time for unity. It's like, well, unity
doesn't mean
how far are you going to take that? Because surely you have to negotiate.
Exactly.
What's the path forward? And surely that negotiation will have to involve all Iranians and, some sort of plebiscites and referendums and ideas. And so you can't just say, well, in the sake of unity, I mean, then it becomes if you take that to its logical conclusion, it's a dictatorship because you will do everything I say based on unity. I know that's not at all what's being pledged here, but there has to be oxygen for people to disagree and, push and pull and an elasticity. And so I guess my hope for it would be that the wording when people, some of the folks around this who've been tweeting or talking about it, saying this is a suggestion or this is a blueprint that suggests it's not like the be all and end all. I would hope that that's the case, that there's some ability to kind of work with this, because it doesn't, if in fact it goes anywhere, because it does seem that rigidly prescribing this would be, in my opinion, a mistake right now.
Yeah, I think one of the main reasons that I thought even initially that it was a good step in the right direction, and I still want to maintain that thought, is that it is being referred to as a blueprint. I think for something preliminary, it's good, but I think it has a lot of work. I think, like you said, there needs to be a lot of additional conversations that need to be had. And the other thing is, from what I read, and again, to be fair, I haven't gone through the entire thing in detail, but from what I read, it's kind of too many steps forward, in my opinion.
I think that's the whole point.
Yeah,
let's go a little bit at a time.
Yes,
we want to see that solidarity. We want to see people working together. We want to see it. That's my problem. It's like slow down. Where are we going? All of a sudden, and can I really don't enjoy the ongoing debates about flags and things. Okay, so that's my disclaimer. But let me ask you a question. Again, put your political science graduate hat on.
Oh, this one's a hard one for me.
I know it's a hard one because I think we disagree on this. Because I think, well, at this point, why not use the Shir Khorshid? Why not use a traditional Iranian flag?
Right.
The one that's been that predated this era. It's not only the Pahlavi flag. It's something that, as we've talked about, it goes back a few centuries. Why not use the fact that you go to a demonstration, everybody's carrying that flag? Yep. I mean, isn't that a way to be unified? I know there's sensitivities around that because of some people who only interpret that or may interpret that as meaning support only for one camp or something. But it seems to me that trying to initiate or sandwich in a new logo that represents the Iranian people, it's weird.
Yeah.
I mean, there's already a naturally one that people are gravitating towards.
Right.
I don't think everyone who's carrying a Shir Khorshid flag is a diehard monarchist. I mean, this is, it's become the symbol of we don't support the regime and we're demonstrating, right? Outside of Iran. Obviously, it's not something you can carry inside. But so my question is, you disagree?
Here's the thing. I mean, I've gone to demonstrations and I've held the same flag myself and things like that. But I understand some of that sensitivity.
Okay.
And I think that, considering the last 44 years and considering this idea that we want to have conversations and we want to have inclusivity and we want to hear everyone's opinions and all of that, I think especially because of the sensitivity that's grown over the last 44 years, it's something that maybe should still be discussed.
All right.
That's my stance on that. But was that the question? Was it? Do I disagree?
Yeah, okay. It's fine. That's fine. I mean, I understand your point.
Yeah.
I just think it's a shorthand, for me. It was like, why would you start? I mean, I get that there's going to be a couple of people of that opposition group and maybe some of their inner circles or their followers that think no, but it just seems like that would be a lot easier than integrating a new fist as our
I'm totally against the fist. I mean, if there's any flag I'm gonna not hang on to or hold or represent, it's
so bad that I feel bad that, I mean, it just got the memes of this fist at this point with the jokes and it's not the way you want to start a campaign.
Can we
maybe
contact
we'll come around to
ADF Iran and have Anahita give them a new logo or something?
The talented Anahita.
Anahita.
Let me say something about. Are you done with the?
Yes, those were.
Are you quite done?
I am.
That's a lot, and all of these things. Like, I reserve the right to completely change my opinion on the Massa Charter.
Yes. Likewise, I'm going to add that disclaimer.
Yeah, no, because you don't know how these things play out.
Exactly.
I mean, honestly, if there's some kind of, I don't know how they do it, but if there's some kind of straw vote in Iran and 80 million people say we love the Massa Charter, who am I to think it's too much too soon or something? Go ahead, take it. That's great, But my initial reaction was some of the people who are taking issue with this have a point. So the one thing I want to mention though, and it's with the Iran-Saudi question, I mentioned Iran International, and we've not regularly, but we've a few times had folks from Iran International here. I think a lot of the people at that network do really good work. I think their heart is in the right place, etc. But Iran International is ultimately it's funded by
Saudi.
Right.
Saudi funds.
It's funded by the funding comes from Saudi Arabia.
That's right.
And so ultimately, unfortunately, and I know Iran International says it's independent, but it's not.
They're keeping the lights on.
It's as independent as I mean, you ultimately are beholden to those who deliver the funding. And if I don't know if this is true, the stuff we've heard about Iran saying to Saudi Arabia, you need to curb back the funding to Iran International, or tell them they can't be as ideological or as aggressive against the regime, or any of that. There's a lot of that chatter going on. Maybe it's all untrue, but it is true that if you are if your stakeholders are big, and if your stakeholders are national or a country, it's you're going to be beholden to them.
Yeah.
And so it's an important time for independent media.
Yes, it is.
And one of the things in the Roqe Charter, is it Mansour's charter?
Yes.
Yeah. The Roqe Mansour is that we do not want to be beholden to any big sort of funding, unless it's a lot of money. No, I kid. We are not. We are independent. And we depend on our dear audience to help crowdfund this, and some of our advertisers and people who've sponsored us over the years. And so, if you want to be part of that and keep this sort of independent voice alive, no one tells us what to do editorially. We are not beholden to anyone. No sponsor or advertiser has ever dared, quite frankly, to say you can't have this person on, or you shouldn't say this. That is the whole point of editorial and creative autonomy that we have with Roqe. So we're committed to that mission. And if you like what you hear and what we do here, please become one of our Roqe members at our Patreon page. And you go to our website, roqemedia.com, and you press the support us button. It takes you to the Patreon page where you can become a bronze, gold, or silver sponsor. And that's a small monthly fee. And you get some, in exchange, you get some Roqe special gifts from us. And so we really appreciate people who sign up and become, especially if you guys out there who are regular listeners, if you have the means, this is a way of keeping us going, keeping us alive, and keeping us not funded by any particular interest group. So go to our roqemedia.com. I want to make it a tradition here to mention our new Patreon members. So we have a silver member, Sarah Karimi. Thank you to Sarah Karimi. Any relation to Ali Karimi, do you think?
Not that I know of. Maybe. Let us know, Sarah.
Sarah Karimi, that'd be nice.
Yeah, that would be.
I guess. Sarah Karimi, you are a silver sponsor. We appreciate it. We'd love you guys to become part of our Roqe members Patreon page. Please do. Thank you, Pegah.
Thank you.
It was a lot.
Yes.
Thanks for doing all that research and for educating us, and we'll see you Thursday.
See you soon.
Okay, let's get to our first guest, Nicky Nodjoumi, the legendary Iranian-American artist, coming up in just a little bit. But first, my first guest is an Iranian dancer, choreographer, actor, and entrepreneur. She has been dedicating herself and her significant platform to the cause of freedom in Iran in recent months. Kosar Abbasi is based in the... Did I say that wrong?
No, I liked it.
Okay. I'll continue with my introduction. Kosar Abbasi is based in Los Angeles now, but she had quite a life journey getting there. She was born and raised in the Khuzestan province in Iran during the Iran-Iraq War. Kosar moved to India at the age of 19, where her career as a dancer began. She subsequently performed in numerous television shows, stage performances, royalty events across India, won several awards. Then she moved to Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and after that to Los Angeles, where she has lived and worked since 2016. Kosar is the founder of KLX, which is a training app that helps people to have their best yoga practices and training at home. And you have seen her in music videos and such shows as The Silver Poet with Houshang Tozi as an actor and as a dancer. She has been very active since the killing of Mahsa Amini, including performing at demonstrations, recording and posting some powerful videos in social media, and being the choreographer for several musical theater performances and plays in California in recent months and right now. Kosar Abbasi joins me from Los Angeles. Hello.
Hi. Good to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's nice to finally have you on the show. I've known you for some time, and I appreciate your work, and I'm grateful to have you on the program. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much.
Kosar Jan, I want to get into your story a little bit, and I want to ask you about some specifics in terms of the things you've been doing with this new revolution. But as a general question, just to start, you've been so very active in this uprising since September. If you were to boil it down to one thing, what would you say has most inspired you to be as involved as you have?
Iranian women. Always Iranian women have been really inspiring to me. Plus always Middle Eastern women, especially my own roots. I'm inspired by my own women before my own time and now the new generation, and I'm proud.
Okay, well that's a perfect segue because let's go into your roots and perhaps the women in your life. You're a kid from Khuzestan who was born
Yes.
in the middle of the Iran-Iraq War. You lived in Iran for the first 19 years of your life.
Yes.
Tell us what the impact of being a kid during the war, especially in that region, which, as some folks will know, was the epicenter of a lot of the attacks during that war. Growing up under the Islamic Republic, growing up in that area, growing up as a kid during the war, what would you say the impact of all of that was on you?
Of course, like any other kid who is born in such a traumatic environment, I grow up with a lot of those trauma, and I believe just being in an art journey helped me to dig into them and go through the healing process. But I always have that sometime, we heard a lot of bombing, we saw a lot of people being killed and dead. I believe I was like 4 when the war was over, and I remember very pictures of what I saw as a kid. And of course, I'm from that area. I was born and brought up here. My parents, my relatives, we were one of those people like any other families there. We got the damage of the war in our own personal lives as well. So it was something that I lived with it and I grew up with it. And those cities, they were damaged during the war. And unfortunately, after the Islamic Republic came into power and started that war, after the war, they never ever fixed those cities. No one paid attention to those cities. And people in those cities started suffering more till today, which, for years and years and years in Khuzestan, like Abadan, Khorramshahr, Mahshar, there were always water problem. We issued a lot of water problem. We issued a lot of polluted air. Like a lot of people in Khuzestan, they suffer from asthma. A lot of women are not able to get pregnant because of whatever chemical stuff that has been used. Like out of 50 people in a family, maybe 1 or 2, they have difficulties to bring children, or even more. I really don't know that number because I never done that specific research on it. But I grew up with that, and I still hear how much my people have been suffering. And then it used to come to the mindset, it was interesting. It was absolutely two different worlds. We had people who were very conservative, and we women, we girls, we had zero rights. And at the same time, we had this all open-minded, like my own father, educated. They knew what's happening outside of the world as like Khuzestani men. But it was a, crazy time.
I'm so glad that you said all of that about the war, because I sometimes feel, in fact, I feel some guilt about this, that we don't spend enough time talking about the implications of the Iran-Iraq war. We talk a lot about there was a revolution and this Islamic Republic came and the Ayatollahs and all that. But then there's this war that has a major impact. Obviously, 1 million people die on both sides of Iran-Iraq. But I think I've told you this before, that one side of my family, my father's side is Khuzestani. My dad was born in Abadan. And I have a family member who, just like you, grew up during the Iran-Iraq war. And he says even now, he'll hear a loud sound and sort of turn around and be scarred by that bombing. And he says even now, part of his reticence, we've talked about how the new young kids of Iran have been so brave, these young women and boys who've been on the front lines of this uprising. He says even now, part of his reticence to even go to rallies here in Toronto is the scars of what he went through during the Iran-Iraq war. And we don't often pay enough attention to that, I think, for that cohort, for that generation.
Absolutely. And I think it's very important because the damage, we cannot measure the damage. Even me, myself, as a person who has lived that life, when I want to, digest it, I realize there are so much that I still living 20 years out of Iran, being a dancer, live life. I still see there are part of me which is like dragging me down, and I'm a fighter. I have to fight every day and push myself. But of course I am in touch with people I love and care, and I can see every year as it passes by, since the time I was a kid and remember, these people are getting more suppressed, more depressed, more and all they're doing, they're just moving on, they just living life. They just go day by day in a hope that one day this is going to change.
Yeah.
I hear that from my family a lot.
It's interesting when you say I've been a dancer for the last 20 years. You weren't always a dancer in Iran. I understand you've always loved dance,
Yes.
which is who we know you as today. But you were actually planning to go into medicine, I understand. And in fact, you leave Iran for India when you're 19. This is, I guess, around 2003, to study medicine. Did you believe that a life as a performer was just not an option for you in Iran?
No, honestly, I don't know. From a very, very young age, maybe around 4 or 5, if I can remember right, I knew this is not the life I want to live. I knew there is something more into this life. And I always was picturing myself in a dance costume, dancing on stage. And of course, I was a very good student. I was one of the top students in school. And my parents, they were very tough on education. Like any other Iranian parents, I supposed to become a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And not only a doctor, a heart surgeon. It's like,
right.
that's
Right.
specific.
You can't just be a normal doctor. Hopefully you also have a degree in engineering. But yes, yes.
Heart surgeon. And I tell my mom, I am a heart surgeon now. 5 minutes I dance, all hearts are okay for that 5 minutes.
Yes.
I left Iran. I promised my parents that I'm gonna study pharmacy, and I studied, but I never wanted to become a pharmacist. I kind of, just, if I want to be honest now, I was lying at that time. I was just trying to lie to my parents, and then the second year I called them and I said, I'm not going to become a doctor. I don't like to be in a pharmacy. I don't want to be in hospital. Then my dad asked me, what do you want to do? I said, I'm going to be dancing. I'm a dancer. I dance. That's it. Zan zendegi azadi.
How did that go over with your dad?
My dad he's an interesting person. He told me, I do not understand dance as a career, was as an art form. I haven't been able to digest it, but I know that your generation is different with mine. And he told me a beautiful sentence. I said that 2 years ago in another interview. He said, when you as daughters stand up in front of your fathers and take your right, this country will change.
Wow.
Take your right from me.
Prescient.
Yeah.
He was talking about now, this moment.
Yes. I'm blessed. That's a kind of a father I grew up with. He was not understanding me, but he didn't stop me at the same time.
When you go to India, you're this, 19-year-old, you're ostensibly going there to study, as you say, pharmacy, medicine. What was there a particular moment, or was there an evolution where you discover, oh, I'm talented and I love dance, this is something I'm going to do?
I knew I'm talented before going to it. I knew I'm talented in dance from a very young age.
How did you know?
How
did you know?
I used to do all Michael Jackson's, all dancing, like do belly dancing. I was always the center of attention in any gathering, wedding, anywhere. When I used to start dancing, everybody was going.
Oh, wow.
Give me the space.
Right.
And I knew I'm a dancer. I'm mostly a self-taught dancer till I went to India. And it was the second week when I got hired. When I arrived to India.
Where were you in India? Were you in Pune?
I went to Pune. Yeah. I went to Pune. I went to college. And one of my classmates, he was an African rapper. He invited me to an event. And when I went to an event, I just went on stage. That's it.
It seems like you were doing quite well in India. What precipitated the move to Kuala Lumpur? And then I understand when you get to Malaysia, that has a major impact on your dancing because you find a large and fertile Iranian community there. Tell me about the move to Malaysia and how Malaysia inspired you.
I had a very amazing life as a dancer in India. As you know, is the country of dance. And I thought I'm going to live my life there because I had everything as a dancer. But then when the Neda, Sultan and Green movement happened, that was the time I started feeling guilty, to be honest. Because before that, I said, I'm not going to dance Iranian. I'm not going to speak Farsi. I'm not going to listen to Iranian song. I am a different person. I don't have nationality. I just want to live life.
Wow. And then the Green movement inspires you to come back to your home, to the roots. Yeah.
Big time. When I saw the video, my life changed. My life changed because it was emotionally, it impacted me big time. I don't know how long I cried, 1 week, 2 weeks. And then I realized that how much I miss my roots and how much I felt responsible to be the voice of my own life, be the voice of a lot of people's life like me who just have a dream to be a dancer. That's a basic dream that any girl can have in any other country.
Yeah.
So I felt really guilty.
Was it ever a consideration to go back to Iran?
No, never. When I left Iran, I said, I'm done. I'm done with this country. I'm done with this mentality. I'm done with me not being able to be me. I'm a woman. I want to live life. I choose for myself. I decide, and no one can tell me what to do. And I want to dance. And as a dancer, my instrument is my body. Don't tell me how much it's supposed to be covered, what style of dance I have to do. Whatever I decide, if you like, you appreciate. If you don't, go watch something else.
Right.
That was my always my path, and it still is.
Just out of curiosity, I mean, I don't know a lot about Malaysia, but it's an Islamic country as well. The freedom that you were talking about, that you were craving, that you were living for, did you find that in Kuala Lumpur?
It's a bit weird, to be honest. As much as I loved to stay in India, and I felt okay. In Malaysia, I was able to be free, but at the same time, there were a part of us that it was certain looks were heavy on us, of course, especially if you were a non-Iranian, like a European or a Chinese lady dancing any type of a dance. It was more acceptable till they know you are Iranian, because they expected you to be a Muslim practical woman. Like if she's from Iran, she's Muslim, she's supposed to do this. I faced it a little bit in Malaysia, and of course I got into a problem. What I heard that was with the Islamic immigration of Malaysia, and that was the time they rejected my work visa second year, and they put the red stamp and they deported me to Iran, which that's another story, how I escaped. Malaysia has tanaquz. I don't know the right word in English. It's just you don't know where you stand.
Sorry, it's another story, how I escaped. Is there a quick version of that story? Because that sounds...
Yes, I practically ran away from the building. They deported me. They said, you have to go back to Iran at this date in 14 days with this flight, Iran Air flight. I'm like, watch me.
Wow, look at you.
I'm not going back.
So you had sanctuary at the UN or what?
No, I just ran away from the building. In one moment, the survival mode mode got activated. I had to go with an agent to the 7th floor for my paper to be signed with the High Commissioner, something like that. So before reaching to the 7th floor, I just ran away from the staircases and I just ran. Maybe for 25 minutes, 30 minutes. And then when I was like, now I have to go somewhere, I called a friend and she told me, go to United Nations office. I went to United Nations office. They told me, we cannot take you in. Take this piece of paper with the name and a date. Come back in 5 months. And in these 5 months, don't get caught. If you get caught, you'll be deported. We can't do anything.
Wow.
So
what did you do for 5 months?
I improvised.
Oh, wow. I mean, you've been through a lot.
Yes, and sometimes I'm like, why I had to go through a lot, and sometimes I am like, I'm supposed to be who I am today. So,
although I have to tell you, this is my mantra. I always explain this to people. With Iranians, doing this show for the last 3 years, I can tell you, with almost anybody, when you scratch beneath the surface a little bit, you'll say, "Oh, you're a successful dentist in San Diego," and how fun. And then you scratch beneath the surface a little bit, and they'll say, "Well, yeah, well, I had to walk across the border barefoot to Pakistan to get." The whole thing. Everyone's got these stories, right? As a product of what has happened in the last 4 decades, no one is untouched by that. So, you end up in Los Angeles, and of course you've. You're not just your survival instincts are not just strong, but your entrepreneurial instincts. I called you an entrepreneur in the beginning. You're not just talented, and of course, I'm a fan. I've seen you perform, but also you've got this knack for business, you yoga, etc. You've got a number of different projects. It always seems on the go. Something that was interesting for me, Kosar, was that the only version of you I've known in the short time I've, some interactions we've had over the last year or two, is that you're a very friendly, sort of accessible, a smile on your face kind of person. It was quite jarring in the week or so after Mahsa Amini was killed, seeing the video that you posted, which was very powerful. I was very angry about you were angry about, it was ostensibly about the illegality of dance in Iran, which of course we know about. But I could see that viscerally that you were just so angry. It was such a it was coming at you out of the screen in terms of watching you. Tell me about that. Tell me about those first weeks of this uprising and what was going on with you emotionally.
I am angry, Jian. I am angry because we deserve to live life. I am angry because as a human that I just wanted to dance. I had to go through so much, face so much of danger in my life, and the life that I have been living now, I want that for my cousins. I want that for their daughters, for their sons, and no one has the right to control any other human being. I'm angry with these people. I was so much angry with my own parents that they accepted that. I'm still angry, and I feel the only thing has been helping me all these years to, at least this anger doesn't cause me more damage is dance and yoga. If I am doing it all the time because it's helping me. And why dance should be illegal? Why dance should be something that a lot of people don't respect it when a woman does it. Dancing is the first and most powerful way of self-expression. Look at birthdays, look at weddings. Anybody from any kind of a career, job, mindset, when they come to the dance floor on a wedding or any family, they are the freest version of themselves in that moment. That's the only moment this mind, it doesn't have judgment, doesn't have logical, it doesn't stop this body. I have a lot of argument with the spiritual people when they want to say spirituality is something else. No, the highest level of spirituality is my physical being. You cannot argue that. This is the highest stage.
And Kosar, as you would know, I mean, this would be tragic and infuriating in any country, in any culture, to suppress people from being able to move their bodies. But particularly in Persian culture, and Iranians like to dance, right? That's kind of what we do.
We are crazy dancers.
Yeah. So it almost seems like it's a direct slap in the face to the culture. It's I guess. I mean, I was going to say it's good timing. There's nothing good about this news, but
I understand.
But I appreciate the timing of you coming on the program today, because you may have just heard the news just came out that you're obviously aware of those Iranian girls who made the video last week in Tehran's Ekbatari neighborhood dancing unveiled to the song "Calm Down." So their video went viral, as we all know. Today there are reports that they've been arrested, forced into confessions. I was going to get your reaction to that.
I was waiting for it, Jian. I was wondering why they haven't done it till today. I was 100% sure. Imagine, to me, the first thing we, especially as Iranian, have to learn and appreciate more is to support dance. Dance is the strongest fight because it creates happiness. And what these mullahs don't want is me and you to be happy. And I honestly, I don't know what else I can do. I have been talking yesterday till 10, 11 o'clock at night in my bed with my friends. What else shall we do today? Because I was 100% sure they're going to arrest them. Honestly, I did not share the video. I'm like, this video is going viral and they're going to be arrested in next week.
Well,
my heart hurts, really. It's hurting me. It's really hurting me. Sorry. Unacceptable. And this has to change. I personally, like you, like anybody, I'm not gonna stop fighting. This has to change. Even if I have to dedicate all my life, all my art into it, I'm doing it. And I don't want my purpose in life change. I thought that's my goal, this is my dream. No, I don't see any purpose above that the new generation Iran dance freely in Iran, wherever they want, however they want to do it. I'm sorry for being so emotional.
No, don't. You shouldn't be sorry for that. Can I ask you, do you feel like this question of, the regime, these mullahs don't want us to be happy, don't want us to dance. How do you feel about Nowruz is coming up in a couple of weeks? Do you feel like is it okay to be, I don't know, joyous at Nowruz, or would you think we should temper it down a bit? What's your feeling about that?
I will take your question to the first thing you asked me. I am born and brought up in Bandar Mahshar, Khuzestan. I am Bandari. The most beautiful thing that inspires me about my people is that whatever happens, end of the day, they say, this is it, Ney Hambun, come back, let's dance. We Iranian, we are really powerful people. They say we didn't live normal. No, we did not have a normal life. So our strength, our inspiration also is not normal. We have to celebrate. We should not let them to put us to this black sorrow, like sadness. We need to fight it and break through it.
It's not disrespectful?
Actually, because I am in touch with my people in Iran, and they say we want to celebrate. We want to be happy. Doesn't matter how much they do to us. We want to be happy. That's what I hear from my cousins. That's what my father wants from me. Yeah. My father every time talks to me, and he knows me very well. When he sees this energy that I am like nervous, I'm angry, I'm sad, he says, if you don't dance, I don't forgive you. You have to go and dance and make people dance, make them happy.
Wow.
Recharge them. So if I have a tool to recharge myself or recharge people around me, I do more. We have to celebrate life. We have to celebrate all those people who gave their lives for us to keep this culture, to change this. That's how I see it.
It's a great perspective. I appreciate you sharing that perspective.
Thank you.
Let me just ask you, I know I can't keep you forever, but let me ask you about a couple of the pieces that you've done recently and that I found particularly powerful. You did a dance piece that was a tribute to Majid Reza Rahnavard. He's the young man, I think, that people will remember was executed. He was Mashhad, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and he was the one that said, I want people to be smiling. I don't want people to be sad. So tell me about doing that piece for him.
I knew what he's talking about. I knew, all these young guys in Iran, they have a kind of a leadership or life coaching, style. So he was kind of coaching us. He was leading us that when they execute someone like him, they want us to be sad. They want us to be fearful. They want us to not do the things that we want to do again. So he was telling us not to do it. So at the same time, I wanted to follow what he says and dance for him. And I tried, how can I, at the same time heal this pain for myself. So I chose a dance that in Iran, in south of Iran, in Khuzestan, they use for young people who die. Another beauty of Khuzestan, like Ize, like Mahshar, most of the time when a young person dies, instead of crying or playing Quran or anything like that, they celebrate that life, like Indians, and I have been in those countries. To me, that's very touching and beautiful. We celebrate them. They are not there anymore. We have to celebrate them instead of bringing the negativity on us that the government wants to be negative,
This is really, I appreciate these insights of yours. You've performed at demonstrations in Los Angeles. We've seen some big demonstrations now, and we've seen. I hear different things coming out of LA. I hear it's amazing. Look at and then I hear some people saying there's as ever, there's different factions, and this person doesn't like that person, and this person doesn't think we should be celebrating, and this person's angry. And what have the demonstrations in Los Angeles been like for you? Because obviously I've seen you've been very active there.
Of course, we have teamwork issue as culture. So. For me, I am with whoever does anything. I do my part. So for me, has been a great experience. But I think if we follow two factors, it can help us more. That's my observation. First of all, stop nagging at each other. That, oh, you do this, you don't do this. Okay, whatever I think is right that I should do. Everyone in a teamwork, whatever I am good at, I have to take care of that. I don't need to give my opinion in each and everything that is not, in my abilities. You see, we all Iranian, we all are doctors, even if we have studied or not. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what we suffer here.
What's the second thing?
And second thing is, I forgot what I wanted to say. First was
the first one was too good.
Yes,
it was very good.
At each other. Yes, that's the thing. And we are very emotional people. We are very emotional. Los Angeles is kind of, we are Iranian. And it's amazing because if we, as an example, in Los Angeles, can come up with this beautiful harmony and democracy way of living together, like there are people who have come 40 years ago before the revolution here. They have lived with a specific mindset in a certain box. And then we have Jewish community where they have tried to keep their community, keep their culture and mindset, and very carefully they interact with others. And then there are all these Iranian, Armenian who have come and they all gathered in one area to be in touch with their Armenian culture, and at the same time they still miss some of their Iranian culture. Then there is us who have been born and brought up in Iran with a different environment, knowing Iran differently. Then we all have come here. I think there has been a chaos of not knowing each other, and in a country which Arab or Turk, Baluch, this, Lord, that, we have always had separation even inside that little land. Our jokes are bullying each other's language, slangs. So this is a small Iran, LA. Los Angeles is a small Iran. That's why it's called Tehran. It's really right. And I believe especially this revolution, it's brought us to face each other. Especially now I see a lot of Iranian who are born and brought up here. Until today, they didn't even want to go for Nowruz. They were fighting with their parents. Mama, I'm not coming. I'm going with my friends. And now they are more active than us.
Right. Yes. Yes.
So there is a change. I can see this change last 5-6 years that I'm myself here. And the way people ask me questions has changed.
Yeah. You're so right about all that, and including what I call the rebirth of Iranian pride, something that let's hope the sooner rather than later, the end game is the toppling of this regime and a new and a free and a democratic and a secular Iran. But if those who started those brave souls in Iran have given a gift to the rest of us, it's been that we have, as a product of that, as a global community, refound our own pride and our own ability to shout at the rooftops that, you were born and growing up in the Iran-Iraq War. I was here as a little kid, and it wasn't fun to be Iranian all those years. We learned to hide in the ethnic closet, and to get to a point now where there's a demonstration, back in October or September when we did the first demonstration in downtown Toronto. A bunch of Iranians in the main street, saying, I'd never experienced anything like that in my whole life. It was so empowering, it was incredibly empowering. On that note, and as a final question to you, and I'm so grateful that you're on the show and the time you've given us, let me ask you, we know that this revolution is going to have we keep saying it's a marathon, not a sprint. We can't expect everything to happen overnight, but it's been a couple of tough weeks. We're realizing that the EU is not going to put the IRGC on the terrorist list. Those ambassadors are not being called home. It looks like the Biden administration might be trying to angle for a deal. And, when we do these interviews, as we've done our series, The Voices from Inside Iran, Kosar, there's a lot of these people, the young people in Iran who have been the frontline protesters, saying they're feeling quite hopeless right now. And they're feeling like there's not a lot going on in Iran because everybody's been terrified by this regime. And how are you feeling about where the movement is at today?
I believe that a lot of people got hopeless. I see and hear that around myself too. I have a Iran Zan Zendegi Azadi flags on my car, and most of them even behind the traffic light. I see people bring the window down. A lot of Iranian, they say, they question, you think it's going to change with a very sad, hopeless face? I see that is happening, and I don't blame anybody, because this is really scary and depressing. Seeing people getting blind, killed, and when it comes to the European and American governments, that's not something that we have been dealing last 40 years or 30 years of it that I am living life. Reading the history, it tells us that we have something really huge to deal and fight with.
Yeah.
But we don't win when we stop moving. As a dancer, I see everything as moving. Next move, next move, next move, next move. We just have to move on. We cannot afford giving up. I am hoping that everybody start to be hopeful again. Not only we are fighting a huge terrorist organization, which is a very mafia system, we are fighting European government, US government, Saudi Arabia, China, Russia. Wow, we are fighting the whole world kind of.
Yeah.
So it's not easy. I am as a person as well. There are times that in my lonely time, I'm like, is it possible? But then something in my heart says, no, we win. I am hopeful. Even when I feel hopeless, I still have faith. And there is this sentence I say for the last, I read it in a book called The Book of Creativity. You have to have faith when there is no reason to have faith. And the most beautiful, authentic things come out of a chaos. A brilliant thing comes out of a chaos. You have to destroy to create and build something new. And Rumi and Hafiz, they talk about that a lot. And I want to listen to that. I'm learning from it, and I'm just sharing it. We have to have faith.
I'm so grateful for you, really.
Thank you.
That you're out there. You're grateful for yourself as well.
No, for you too.
I really am grateful that you're out there representing the way you are. Your voice is so significant, and you've said so much in this interview that I think is so valuable. Thank you for this. I hope we do it again soon, and I hope we see better days soon as well.
Thank you. I'm grateful for you too, because you create a space like that I can just talk from my heart without, thinking and knowing what you're going to ask me next. Thanks for creating this space. I appreciate you.
Merci. Thank you again, and Khodafis.
Khodafis.
This is Roqe episode 246, The Uprising, We Should Be Allowed to Dance. Well, my next guest is a renowned Iranian-American artist who became a major driver in building a profound and acclaimed political body of work, taking social power and justice as its subject. Nikki Nodjoumi was born and raised in Kermanshah. He obtained his master's in fine arts from the City College of New York in 1974. He then went back to Iran, became politically engaged in the quest for freedom and democracy against the Iranian government by designing statement posters and satirical drawings. This is back to the 1970s. He participated in protests before and after the revolution, which of course led him to jail with the Islamic Republic and led him to leave Iran and return to New York. Nikki is now very involved in creating and posting works against this current regime during this uprising. His works, of course, are in several prominent institutional collections worldwide. But first, right now, the acclaimed artist Nicky Nodjoumi joins me from Brooklyn, New York today. Hello, sir.
Thank you, Jian. I'm honored to be your guest today.
It's so good. It's been a while since you were last on the program, and it's always an honor to have you on the show. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Nikki, I guess I have to start with the obvious. I mean, you've been not just an artist, but an activist for years, especially through your art. You were imprisoned by the Islamic Republic regime back when they first came to power. Did you ever think you would see the day when the global Iranian community is this galvanized and unified, you might say, for change?
From the beginning of the revolution, which for a few months I defended, I never imagined that I'd be seeing the day that we're seeing right now. It's been wonderful occasion because I'm witnessing the progress of 4 years of dictatorship and amazingly suppression of the brutal government that has been recognized by not only we, but all over the world.
Well, you've been actively making art against the mullahs for a long time. Do you almost feel like, I was thinking about you and thinking about what we're going through over these last 6 months and feeling like you must almost sense that Iranians are catching up to where you've been for many years. Does it feel that way?
Exactly. Since the day I was arrested in the beginning of the revolution, actually during the time of the Noger coup d'etat, we were supposed to be at the front of the coup d'etat, which I was arrested, and I spent the night in the prison, and I met Mr. Khalkhali, and I was convicted to 100 lashes. I realized the justice that is happening in that moment, that environment, is not the justice that we were looking for. It was totally undemocratic, totally without anything that you can imagine. So since then, I have struggled against the regime, and up to now, I have done lots of, caricature painting, a lot of things. But I did it in my private setting. I would send it to some of the internet sites, but not like these days. This is what happened after Mahsa was killed.
When you say that you never thought these days would come, and what has been the most inspirational part of it for you?
As I said, the whole thing, this 44 years, it was a constant struggle. It was my preoccupation that, whatever I do is against the government. But one thing made it much more urgent was the the killing of Mahsa Amini. And that by itself really sparked not only the emotion that I have, it become much more urgent to me. That makes my heart boiling. I want to do something more.
I've noticed your social media platforms are entirely given over to the uprising. It's all of, at least what you're publicly posting is all about the uprising. Is that the focus of any and all art you are currently inspired to make, or is that just what we see? In other words, are you putting that stuff up and then painting meadows in the privately, or is this what you're really occupied with?
I'm mostly yes, but at the same time, I'm doing my own painting, which are also related to the struggle that we're going, and also we are having a group by the name Art, Culture, and Action, which is a group of artists and practitioner of art and the writers around the time when Mahsa Amini was killed, and our duty is to defend, the students, teachers, all the writers, scholars, women's rights, to defend them, to document the whole struggle.
Some of your pieces have been so powerful. There's one that I think of that I think you did early in this uprising, that it's got women, life, freedom written on it, and I believe it's Khomeini, and then out of the inside of Khomeini's robe is a powerful female figure emerging. Can you speak to that piece?
As I said, all these years I have done many of these subjects to express what my feeling is. And the subject was always the suppression of the woman, and also always the sexuality of the Islamic Republic, which is really, to me, is the core of all the decisions that they make about the woman.
It's interesting because you inadvertently, I'm not sure if it was inadvertent, but you segued into my next question, which was how much of what you do at this stage is cathartic for you. In other words, you're expressing, as you just said, the emotions that need to come out, and how much of it is sort of directed in terms of what you want to, the messaging you want to put out to the global community. Many of your pieces are they're quite clear in terms of their interpretation. I mean, some of them even have, let's stop the mullahs, end of the mullahs, etc. on them. So is the incentive personal, or is the incentive really wanting to be part of the uprising somehow, and this being your contribution?
I did most of this work during these past 44 years without any notion that is going to be seen in the public. Now, when I look back at those work, and I know the audience, I know that, the people that would take a look and realize what is being done. But what is being done actually has been done like 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Yes, it's true. I mean, you have been incredibly consistent in your work, and there's a lot of talk these days about how there's been this explosion of political art that's come out during this uprising, and like I say, people are kind of catching up to what you've been doing for decades, right?
You're absolutely right, and I'm really amazed by the quality and quantity of artworks, performance that is coming out of this revolution. At the time, in 1979, there was not many people doing these things, but now everybody doing it, and they do a fantastic job, beautiful.
Yes. There's really powerful imagery happening. There is a comparatively modest-sized Iranian community in New York where you've lived for years, but there have been some impressive demonstrations there in recent months. How have you seen the community, the Iranian community, and particularly the one in New York, change or grow in the last 6 months?
again, this revolution, this new revolution, changing everything. One of the things that I've been in New York for a long time, and I've seen demonstration before, even previous regime. At the most, 100, 150 people would come to the demonstration. But recent demonstration in New York, thousands of people are marching in the street. It's just mind-boggling that some of these demonstrations that you go, you're so proud of the participation of the Iranian mostly young generation.
You know, we've been talking about this confluence of feelings, these paradoxical feelings that all of us have had over the last 6 months. On the one hand, the inspiration that you're just talking about, the energy that we get from seeing the unity or the numbers in the streets or the people around the world who are part of this uprising. On the other hand, the heartbreak and the devastation of what the regime has been doing that you referenced earlier. Nikki, how have you processed all the ways that this regime has cracked down on the Iranian people in recent months, including the new and quite devastating information that there has been the intentional poisoning of Iranian schoolgirls and university students?
This is again coming from one of the most brutal regime of all time, and they're not short of any ideas to suppress this amazing movement that started with Mahsa Charter. I mean, so they know they'll be defeated, but this is the last straw for them.
I mean, with everything that this regime has done, obviously there was even the executions back in the 80s, but can you even conceive of anything over the last 44 years that is worse than poison attacks on school children?
I haven't seen anything like that. This is our children. How come they don't even think about it? But this is their own children. This is a crime. This is a crime against humanity.
Yeah, it's definitely a crime against humanity, war crimes. You said that this regime has been defeated. There would be a lot of people who would contest that and say that the regime hasn't been defeated just yet. Do you believe the regime has been defeated?
There will be the time, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not next month, but the action by itself, this is desperate action in their part to do, is not working. Even we can see it, if they come up with the new tactics, people are going more in the street and yell more in the street. So
yeah,
there is no end to it until the regime is done.
I mean, amongst those who don't seem to believe that the regime is defeated is the U.S. government currently. I mean, you're an Iranian-American. You've been living in the States for over 4 decades, 5 decades for that matter. How do you feel, Nikki, about the Biden administration's response to the situation so far? We're even hearing chatter about there being an appetite to resuscitate the nuclear deal. Are you disappointed in the role that America has been playing and not being more aggressive in terms of supporting or not enabling the regime beyond sort of lip service that we've heard from some of the people in the administration?
Absolutely unbelievable. I cannot believe Biden administration doing such a thing that they are. It shows the hypocrisy of government of the United States, that one side they defend the struggle of people of Iran, then on the other side, under the table, they talk, what do you appease the government of Iran. And I think the people are in the street. They cannot stop them.
Let's hope so. You know these things. I mean, you've been watching these things. What do you think the agenda of the Biden administration is? I mean, it's obviously not necessarily supporting the people in the streets of Iran. What is the incentive to keep the regime there?
I'm not a political analyst, but I can feel Islamic regime is beneficial to the interests of the government of the United States.
Nikki, you've lived through a revolution that went very wrong. How do you believe we mitigate against that happening again somehow? It's one thing to topple the regime. It's another to make sure that something worse or as bad doesn't come in its place. What wisdom can you share about that?
In my experiences, we can't predict. We cannot really come up with a clear idea that how we do it. But my observation is telling me that people are cautious. People are determined for the change, but they do it smartly. They're not going to do it right away. They're not going to do it like 1979 when we just didn't realize, even didn't think that who are these people that are coming and governing us. And people with that experience, they are cautiously going forward in order to come up with this real practical solution that could establish a real democracy.
Do you have an opinion on these different opposition leaders that have emerged and even this new, Massa Charter or Mansour that they've put out?
I'm supporting every kind of Mansour or charter that is coming out right now. I think the new one also is good. There are some points in it that is might be controversial, but any charter that comes along and have the point that the people have been fighting for and include those points in all of them, I would support them.
A final question to you, Nikki. You sort of famously went back to Iran a couple of times, and obviously things were very difficult in terms of going back and being jailed by the regime, etc. Would you enter? I mean, if we get our wish, the wish of Iranians, it seems almost universally around the world, to have this regime gone, to have a new, free, secular, democratic Iran. Would you want to move back there, or you're very established you're kind of a New York institution at this point? Would you entertain going back to Iran?
I love to go to Iran. Even in these days, I'm just anxious to just jump and go to Iran. But I'm not sure if I would stay there. I've been spending like 50 years of my life in New York City, and I'm kind of established here, so I know my way around. But it all depends. At this time, I would love to go to visit. I would love to be part of the new government.
Can you imagine your art that has made you a persona non grata for the last 4 decades in Iran? Can you imagine a gallery, a museum in Iran publicly posting your art? Wouldn't that be great?
That would be lovely. Just to remind you, the last show that I had in the Museum of Modern Art in Tehran was attacked, and I still haven't got any of those paintings back. So hopefully next time we will have a different show.
I remember that very well, and I remember us talking about that, and it's incredibly tragic, and you're not alone in terms of the art and artifacts that have been lost or suppressed or conveniently hidden by this regime and those around it. Nikki Nojumi, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. Our line was a little distressed today, but it was still so gratifying to hear your voice, and I'm so grateful for the work you do. Thank you.
Thank you. Your program is fantastic. I listen to it all the time.
You're the best. Thank you. Khodafez. Nicky Nodjoumi in New York. Always a pleasure to talk to him. This is Full Time for Roqe for today. Thank you so much for joining us. Remember, you can become a patron, a Roqe member, to support us at roqemedia.com. roqemedia.com. Thanks to the amazing team who put this show together, including Roham, Anahita, Parisa, Pegah, Mertod. Thank you to all of you out there for supporting us and sharing our content. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already. We appreciate that on any of our platforms. Find me on Instagram at jianghomeshi. And as ever, we'll see you Thursday. And in the meantime, Mizun Bashi.